Aquarius. There are some stories that don't begin with a meeting, but with the moment after everything has already ended. You keep moving forward. Life continues, as it always does. From the outside, everything seems fine. But somewhere, deep inside, there's something that hasn't left. It's not exactly about missing the past. It's not really about wanting to go back. It's just a feeling that's hard to name, as if a part of you is still standing in a certain moment, a place where the two of you once existed together. Aquarius understands this in a very personal way. The mind may have already closed the door, but the heart doesn't always walk away at the same time. And maybe what makes it all so confusing isn't the ending itself, but the quiet realization that something still remains, even after you chose to leave. It's so, what is that moment that makes two people truly let go while the heart stays behind? There are some relationships that don't end with a door slammed shut. They feel more like a late afternoon that lingers a little longer than usual. The light is still there, just softer now. You're still sitting next to each other. You can still talk. You still understand one another in some quiet way. But somewhere in the space between you, something has shifted so gently that if you're not still enough, you might not notice it right away. Aquarius tends to feel this early, not because you want things to end, but because you can sense when something is no longer flowing the way it used to. It's not wrong, it's just no longer aligned like before. And the hardest part isn't seeing it, it's accepting that. The feelings are still there, but the path is no longer shared. You may have asked yourself before, what if I tried a little harder? What if I change more? Those questions aren't wrong. They simply mean you cared deeply and sincerely. But some things can't be held together by the effort of one person alone. Like two streams of water that once met at the same point, then quietly drifted in different directions. Not because they wanted to separate, but because each current had changed. Letting go is rarely a loud decision. It comes as an understanding, slow, deep. You don't need many words. You don't need to explain everything. Just a look. A pause that lingers a little longer than usual. And somehow both of you know, this might be where it ends. No one wins, no one loses. Just two people who were once so close, all now choosing to honor the truth of where they are. And for Aquarius, this may be one of the hardest choices, because you don't leave when the love is gone. You leave when you realize that the love you share can no longer grow in a healthy way. There's a quiet kind of maturity in that decision. No one needs to see it. No one needs to validate it. You just know. In some version of yourself, you chose honesty, over holding on. And maybe the heaviest part isn't walking away from someone. It's this, you still feel something and yet you choose not to stay. A decision, not loud, but deep enough to change you in a way only you can truly understand. You've always been someone who sees the bigger picture. You think before you move. You weigh things carefully. You understand that sometimes stopping is the only way to protect yourself. In your mind, everything makes sense. The reasons are logical. The decision is grounded. A choice that, if someone else looked at it, they would probably say, yeah, that makes sense. And for a while, you believed that too. That if you understood enough, things would naturally feel lighter. But then, there's a part of you that doesn't follow that logic. It doesn't need reasons. It doesn't care about right or wrong. It simply remains. In moments you don't expect, memories return. Not loudly, not all at once, but gently, like a breeze passing through. The way they used to say your name, nothing special to anyone else, but to you. It carried its own quiet tone. A sentence you once heard as something ordinary, now echoing more clearly in the silence. Or just a small moment, when the two of you sat together saying nothing, yet understanding everything. None of that was part of your plan. You didn't mean to remember. You didn't try to hold on. But feelings don't really ask for permission to exist. And maybe this is where Aquarius begins to notice something more subtle. The mind can help you walk away from a relationship, but the heart needs its own time to let go. It doesn't rush. It doesn't follow what you think you should do. It just stays there, quietly, like a trace of something that was once very real. You don't go back. You don't lose yourself. You simply carry a small piece of memory with you, not to hold on, not to return, but like a soft imprint, a reminder that there was a time you connected with someone in a way that was deep, and slowly you begin to understand. Not every ending comes with disappearance. Some things close in reality, but continue to exist in a quiet emotional space within you. And then, life continues. There's no clear stopping point. No single day that marks everything as over. It's just, one morning, you wake up and realize you're moving in a different rhythm now. You still go to work. You still reply to messages. You still smile when someone tells a familiar story. From the outside, everything seems to have fallen back into place. But there are things that don't show on the surface. They live in the quiet spaces, in moments no one else sees, when you don't have to pretend you're okay for anyone. Maybe it's when you're driving alone, or sitting by a window at the end of the day, or just a few brief seconds, between two unrelated thoughts, and there, something is still present, not loud, not interrupting your life, not asking you to stop. It's just there, like an old song. You don't play it, you don't try to remember it, but somehow, at a certain moment, the melody returns, soft, but clear enough for you to notice, not to pull you back into the past, but to remind you there was a time like that. Aquarius isn't someone who lives in memories. You value growth. You keep moving forward. You believe in becoming through every phase of life. But that doesn't mean every feeling disappears when a chapter ends. Some things don't need to be held on to, but they don't need to be erased either. They simply change form. No longer the present, no longer a choice, just a quiet part within you. You're not looking for them anymore. You're not waiting for anything to return. But when a memory passes through, you don't avoid it. You don't hold on to it either. You just notice it and let it move on. There's a quiet kind of maturity in that. It's not about forgetting. It's about not letting the past control your present. It's not about denying. It's about understanding. Every feeling has a place, even if it no longer belongs in the life you're living now. And maybe what Aquarius is learning in this phase isn't how to let go completely, but how to live with what is past in a softer way, to let it stay there, like a trace that doesn't need to be erased, a story that doesn't need to be retold, a feeling that doesn't need a name. Just, as you keep walking forward, you realize you were never empty. It's just that a part of you has changed shape and learned to exist in a quieter way. And after you've moved through enough quiet moments, a certain truth begins to come into focus. Not in a way that hurts you, but in a way that gently settles you. Not every relationship has a next chapter. Not every story needs a perfect ending. And not everyone who leaves comes back the way people often imagine. At first, that realization can feel like a quiet emptiness. Not because you're still waiting, but because somewhere, deep inside, you once believed that something real would find a way to continue. And then, slowly you begin to see some things are beautiful. Not because they last, but because they existed at the right time. Some people enter your life not to stay forever, but to open a part of you you hadn't touched before. They don't come with promises. They don't bring certainty, but they bring out another version of you. One that loves more deeply, understands more fully, and sometimes feels more vulnerable. And even when they're no longer there, what you felt doesn't disappear. Aquarius may not speak much about this. You don't rush to label your emotions. You don't like holding on to things that make you feel weak. But deep down, you understand. Some connections don't need to last to leave something real behind. Not to hold on to, not to regret, but to remind you that you opened your heart and you gave something genuine. There's something deeply valuable in that. Even if things didn't go where you once imagined, it doesn't make them meaningless, because real emotion doesn't need a perfect ending to be worthy. It only needs to exist in a moment deep enough to change how you see yourself. And maybe what shapes you the most isn't whether things turned out the way you hoped, but the fact that you remain sincere, or even when the story didn't last. Some feelings don't need to continue in your present life. but they still deserve a place, not as a burden, but as a quiet memory. A reminder that you once loved, in a way that was real, and in a world where so much easily fades away, that is not something small. It becomes something deeply personal, quietly meaningful, and worthy of respect, even if there's no one left beside you to remember it with. And after everything you've been through, a very quiet phase begins to take shape. Not as clear as the beginning, not as heavy as the ending, just a stretch of time where you start to look at yourself a little more gently. You try to be okay again, not to prove anything to anyone, but to calm something inside yourself. You stay busy. You focus on new things. You rearrange your life into a different rhythm. And sometimes you tell yourself, I've moved on. I should leave it all behind. Those words, they sound reasonable, strong, steady, like the version of yourself you've always wanted to be. But deep inside, there's a part of you quietly watching, not resisting, but not fully agreeing either, because feelings aren't something you can control with a decision. They don't disappear just because you think they should. And maybe what Aquarius slowly begins to understand isn't how to forget, but how not to fight yourself. There's a very subtle difference there. When you try to forget, you're pushing the feeling away, as if it's something that needs to be removed. But when you allow it to exist, it no longer feels like a burden. You begin to see it as a natural part of your experience. Yeah, a memory passes through. You notice it and let it go. A feeling appears unexpectedly. You don't avoid it. You don't hold on to it. You simply let it be what it is without needing to change it. And in that quiet allowance, something very gentle begins to happen. It's not that you forget. It's not that you stop remembering. It's that you're no longer carried away by what you feel. You can still think of someone without feeling like you have to do anything with that memory. You can still reflect on the past without asking, what if? There's a quiet kind of peace in that space. Not loud, not something you need to explain, just an understanding that feelings aren't something to fight. They're not right or wrong. They're simply a part of having lived and felt something real. And maybe what truly shapes you isn't how quickly you forget, but how you face what remains. You don't need to go back. You don't need to deny it. You just need to be gentle enough with yourself to admit that. There are people who are no longer in your life, but still leave behind something deeply personal, not to hold on to, not to continue, but to remind you that you once opened your heart, once connected, and once loved in a way that was real. And that doesn't make you weak. It simply makes you deeper. And then there comes a moment when you realize you're no longer walking with that same heaviness. Not because everything has disappeared, but because the way you carry it has changed. You still remember, but the memory no longer touches the same places that once hurt. You still think of them, in ordinary moments, without warning, without reason, but this time, there's no waiting in it, no quiet question of maybe someday, no desire to go back and finish something left undone. It's just a stream of memory passing through and continuing on. The feeling remains, but it no longer pulls you backward. It no longer pauses your present. It simply becomes a very quiet part of you, like an old room. You don't live there anymore, but you know it still exists, somewhere in your memory. You don't need to return. You don't need to close the door. You're just no longer trapped inside. Aquarius understands this in a very personal way. You don't love by holding on tightly. You don't keep things at any cost. You love with freedom. And sometimes, that's exactly what makes letting go harder, because you never want to hurt. Now, you never want to force something to stay the wrong way. But once you've gone far enough, you begin to see, holding a feeling doesn't mean you're bound by it. Some memories don't need to be erased. Some stories don't need to be rewritten to feel right. They simply existed in a time when you were a very real version of yourself. And maybe that's the part worth keeping, not the person, not the relationship, but the way you felt, the way you opened your heart, the way you allowed yourself to connect without holding back. There's a deep kind of peace in that. When you stop trying to decide what should stay and what should go. When you stop asking whether you're fully okay yet. You simply keep living with a memory that has found its rightful place. And in that quiet, you begin to understand some things don't need to continue to have value. Some people don't stay, but still leave behind something beautiful. And some feelings don't need to disappear for you to move forward. Maybe the way Aquarius loves isn't about holding on until the very end, but about knowing when to let go and when to carry something very light in the heart. Not to return, not to wait, just to remember. You once lived very honestly. You once loved in your own way, and you were brave enough to keep going. And if you're somewhere in that journey right now, maybe you don't need to rush to change anything. Just keep moving at your own pace, because sometimes still having feelings isn't a sign that you haven't let go. It's simply a part of being human, still learning how to love in a more grown, more gentle way.